Hello, my name is Freddy Salmon Mijage from Edukea Tanzania. Welcome in this session, which is Form 5, the first topic known as Precolonial African Societies. On the last session, we ended looking on the features of precolonial education. So now we are going to see the limitations of precolonial African education. What were the limitations of precolonial African education? The first one was the programs of teaching were restricted to a certain period in the life of the individual, especially at the time of initiation. It means that the program of teaching was limited or was restricted because of when an individual or the learner reached or was at the age of initiation or at the period of initiation as a certain period of life. It means that the programs of teaching were restricted to a certain period in the life of the individual, especially at the time of initiation. It means that there was the restriction of teaching or teaching programs, especially when the individual was at the time or the period of initiation. So this was restricted to overcome the over teaching or over providing the teaching programs to that person, because he or she is still or was still young. So the education system did not have the specific program for older people. It means that the education system, it means they did not add the specific programs specifically for older people. Another, it relied so much on memory and oral traditions. It means that another limitation was the pre-colonial African education relied more in memory and oral traditions. There was no way newly acquired knowledge, skills could be recorded or preserved for the future. It means that there was no new way or method that could be used to record the acquired knowledge or skills for the use of future generation. Dependence on memorials led to the loss of vital information that could be passed on the young people. It means that due to the absence of instruments that can be used to record the acquired skills or knowledge, it could lead to the loss of the important information that could be transmitted to the future generation. Another was pre-colonial education did not have the specific and the organic or organized syllabus. It means that the pre-colonial education had not specific syllabus and the organized syllabus. Not organic, is it organized? Organized syllabus. It means that the pre-colonial education did not have a specific and organized syllabus. Each society had its own education, which was based on the culture of that society. It means that the education which was provided in pre-colonial African societies had not the specific syllabus and the organized one, because every society or each society had its own contents which must be provided or transmitted to their young people. It should be noted that the environment determined the nature of occupations in pre-colonial Africa. This also shaped the content of the education given to the particular society. It means that the nature of the environment where a certain society was existed determined the content which could be provided to the young people in that society. Another one was pre-colonial education or pre-colonial African education. Pre-colonial African education was characterized by parochialism because it was centered on particular tribe and the clan units. It means that the pre-colonial African education was characterized by parochialism because it was centered on a particular tribe and the clan. It means the education that was provided by that time was segregative. It means that it's based on the tribe or specific tribe or clan. It readily responded to the needs of that particular tribe or region in the question. Therefore, it did not address the issues of the whole nation at large. It means that it was segregative in sense that the content which was provided in a higher tribe maybe was very different from the content which was provided to the Nyamwez tribe. So this was the meaning of pre-colonial African education was characterized by parochialism. And another one was pre-colonial African education lacked a social philosophical base that could have introduced a sense of uniformity and conformity. It means that pre-colonial African education lacked a social philosophical base that could have introduced the uniformity of that education. It means that the education that provided in the pre-colonial African societies lacked the philosophical base or social philosophical base that could bring the uniformity and the conformity of that education. There was absence of common language that could have united all the tribes, thus ensuring skills are not confined within one particular tribe. It means that in pre-colonial African societies, there were no common language that could be used to transmit the knowledge and the skills to the young people. So that led to the particularities or specialization of the content to be given in a given society. Another was pre-colonial African education was too mythical. It relied on oral traditions whereby many of the stories given by the elders could not be proved scientifically. It means that the pre-colonial African education that was provided was mythical. It means it's based on the imaginary, or it was idealism. It's based on the idealism because it's based on the stories and the oral tradition that was given was based on the theoretical form and could not be proved scientifically. It means that it's based on theory, on theoretical matter or theoretical way. The elders had a tendency of being biased towards their tribe. It means that the elders could hide some information in order to provide the information which are going in with their society. So the information that could be given by the elders could be biased. There is something which you have to note. It should be noted that despite its limitations, pre-colonial African education played a crucial role in the development of African societies. It means that the pre-colonial African education paved the way or played a vital role to the development of African societies. Let us see another part of pre-colonial African societies. There is central and decentralized states in pre-colonial Africa. It means that before the coming of colonialists, there were central and it means centralized and decentralized societies in Africa before the coming of Europeans. So we are going to see the societies which was present in Africa before the coming of colonials. In these societies, the power is centralized to a single person and the system of leadership was hereditary in nature. It means that by starting with centralized societies or states, centralized societies in these societies or centralized societies, the power is centralized or was centralized to a single person. To a single person, and the system of leadership was hereditary in nature. It means that the power of governing the people was centralized to a single person. It means that the leader was immersed in the society, and that person was the one who could own the power to lead that society. And the leadership was hereditary in nature. It means that could be elected from one generation to another. The example of centralized society are Toro in Buganda, Bunyoro of East Africa, Asante, Dahomey, Benini, Oyo, Tokoro, and Sokoto of West Africa. The example of centralized society are those which I have mentioned are the examples. Let us see the characteristics of centralized societies. What were the features or characteristics of centralized societies? The first one was they extended over larger areas for the reason that territories were annexed and put under the governor who ruled on behalf of the king. It means that they extended over larger area. It means that the centralized states had the large territory, or they had a large tract of land to be expanded, and the land was annexed was large, and put under the governor who ruled on behalf of the king. For example, Zulu state and the Buganda kingdom were extended over a large tract of land because the land which was annexed or conquered was large. That's why the centralized state was extended over a large area. Another was the kings. The kings wielded political power that represented state authorities. It means that the king owned or wielded political power that represented state authority. The centralization of power ensured national unity among the members of the society. It means that the centralization of power into a single person was the identity of unity among the members of the society. It means that that society was agreed that leader could be fit or could fit to govern or to rule that society. And the king had supreme power, then he commanded with loyalty from his subjects, respect and prestige. It means that as the king had the supreme power, Then he had the power to recommend, to command the West loyalty from his subjects, respect and the prestige. So the king could given those all these things. Another was the throne or power was hereditary in nature, that kings named their successor from among of their children or relatives. It means that the power was hereditary in nature, as the kings could name the successor of the power after he dies. I mean, the king after he died, the successor was already mentioned during his reign. It was the custom of the king to nominate his successor from amongst of his children or family members when he was living. If he died without appointing him, the elders and the other important officials have to take the responsibility of appointing the best judge to take the throne. It means that if the king, or if the situation could happen that the king has died without nominating the successor of the throne, the elders of the society and the other important important people in the society could take the decision to appoint the best children or the best judge who could take the throne or the power. Another feature of centralized state is the internal stability of the kingdom and defense from external aggression of neighboring states forced this society to set up stable military machinery. It means that you can say at this point that the centralized state had the stable military machinery. It means that stable military machinery was formed in order to ensure that there is internal security and the stability in the kingdom, and that army or that military machinery is defending the society against the external aggression or external conquest. This was aimed at maintaining the homogeneity of the kingdom. It means that that military or that stable military machinery was aimed at maintaining the hegemony, the homogeneity of the kingdom or of the society. Another is, despite the hierarchy in administration, the kings and their officials exercised the authoritarianism, rule or absolutism towards the subjects or followers. It means that despite the hierarchy in administration, the kings and their officials exercised the absolutism. It means to take the all power. It means the power was only by the kings and the other officials which were appointed by the king. It means that the absolutism was made or was done towards their subjects or followers. The council of elders whose role was to aid the king, they assassinated him. It means that the council of elders who had power to aid or to give some advice to the king could be assassinated. They would be, here there is some elders. It means that they were assassinated. It means that those elders who could give some advice to the king, they were supposedly to be assassinated. Another feature is the king was vested with judicial authority. It means that the king had the power of judicial, or the king had the judicial power or authority. It means that his court arbitrated all disputes and misunderstanding within the kingdom as the king was the highest court of appeal. It means that the king had the power of all judicial power, and the court of that king was responsible for solving all disputes and the misunderstanding that could happen in the society. And the court of the king was the highest court of appeal. It means it was the highest court within the kingdom that could solve all conflicts or misunderstanding which could happen in the society. Another was the king controlled the wealth of the kingdom. It means that the king was the main controller of the wealth of the kingdom or society or state. He directed on how rent should be used by all members of the society. It means that the king was the one who directed or was responsible for directing on how the land must be used by the whole member of the society. For example, rent for agricultural activities and animal husbandry. For example, the land which suited for agricultural activities was distributed under the direction of the king, and the area for animal husband or pastoralism was directed by the king. He looted property and controlled foreign trade. Through this means, kingdom accumulated much wealth in his state, and he was expected to share generously with his subjects. It means that the king it means he looted. It means the king looted property and controlled foreign trade. It means that the king had the tendency of looting the properties from neighboring states and controlling the foreign trade, and through this were accumulated a lot of wealth, and that wealth were expected to be shared with the king's subjects or followers. Another or the last one was the expansionist policy of conquest, and the raids accumulated much wealth for the kingdom. It means that another feature, the centralized states characterized with expansionist policy of conquest the neighboring states, and that action was led to the accumulation of much wealth for the kingdom. The war captives or captures were distributed to the faithful servant and his hardworking soldiers to make the harder and become braver. It means that the war captives were distributed to faithful servant of the king and his hardworking soldiers to make the harder and become braver. So let us see the case study of the society which was formed in pre-colonial Africa. There is the Buganda kingdom. This was the kingdom which was formed in pre-colonial Africa. The Buganda kingdom was geographically on the shores of Lake Victoria. That means it is found in the Intercastrian region. It means that Buganda kingdom was geographically on the shores of Lake Victoria. It means that Buganda was located on the shore of Lake Victoria. It means that this was among of the Intercastrian region, the areas which are around or along the water bodies. It grew to its apex by the mid of 19th century. It means the Buganda kingdom grew in the apex or in the last or in the end of 19th century. This was highly centralized monarch and was one of the daughter states that came into existence after the collapse of the vastly expanded Bunyoro Kitara kingdom. It means that the Buganda kingdom was the result or was one of the daughter states that came into the existence after the collapse of the vastly expanded Bunyoro Kitara. It means the Buganda Kingdom was existed after the collapse of vastly expanded empire known as Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom. So that was the case study of the kingdom or states that was formed in a pre-colonial African society. By the second half of the 19th century, Buganda became one of the strongest and largest kingdoms in the Interlacustrine region. It means that in the second half of 19th century, Buganda became the strongest and the largest kingdom in the Interlacustrine region. They conquered and controlled. It means they conquered and controlled several kingdoms. They conquered and controlled several kingdoms. It means that Buganda Kingdom were conquered the neighboring states and controlled the other smaller states which were surrounding that kingdom. Buganda Kingdom was under the leadership of Kabaka Mutesa. It means that the kingdom of Buganda was under the leadership of Kabaka Mutesa. Let us see the factors responsible for the rise of Buganda Kingdom. What were the factors that led to the rise of Buganda Kingdom? The one was the centralization of power. It means that there was the centralization of power into the one or single hands of the person. The Kabaka governed the political organ and was considered as the overall ruler. All political power was concentrated on his hands. It means that the power was centralized on the Kabaka's hand. He appointed all leaders on merit and demerits and dismissed all chiefs. It means that after becoming the leader of Buganda Kingdom, he appointed all leaders on merits and dismissed the chiefs who were there. His decision was final and binding. It means that the decision of Kabaka was the final and binding, and no one could disagree the final say of Kabaka Mutesa. There was a hierarchy in administration whereby there were a number of chiefs below the Kabaka. It means that the kingdom of Buganda were in a hierarchical form in administration, whereby under the level of Kabaka Mutesa there were chiefs or the number of chiefs. They helped to spread Kabaka's authority throughout the kingdom. It means that those chiefs under Kabaka helped in the spread of Kabaka authority throughout the kingdom. The Kabaka's throne was hereditary, but there was no royal family or clan. It means that the Kabaka throne was hereditary, but there was no royal family or clan. It means that the power of Buganda Kingdom was hereditary, and there were no any royal family or clan that could take the control of Buganda Kingdom rather than a Kabaka family. Another was organized administrative system. It means another factor that gave the rise of Buganda Kingdom was organized administrative system. The Kabaka governed the kingdom with assistance of advisory council that was called the Lukiko. The council constituted the prime minister, known as Katikilo, and the treasurer Mwanika, and the chief justice Mugema, as well as country chiefs. It means that The Buganda kingdom had the organized administrative system whereby there was the distribution of power, whereby there was the assistance advisor of. The third one was the stable military machinery, which means that Kabaka established a strong and well-disciplined army for the sake of maintaining political stability in the state and defend the kingdom from external aggression. To mean the military was there for defending the kingdom and the fight against the external aggression. The Kabaka used the army to maintain laws and order, to pin down the rival powers, and pursued expansionism policy. Another one was bureaucratic system of government. The bureaucratic system was employed in order to ensure the effective administration of the kingdom, whereby the whole of Buganda was divided into countries. Gombolola, the sub-countries into parishes, Miruka and finally parishes into sub-parishes, and finally parishes into sub-parishes. At all levels, the chiefs were Kabaka's appointees. It means that at all levels which I've mentioned were under the chiefs, Kabaka's appointees. The fifth one was Kabaka's marriage in each clan. It means that the King Kabaka was, or the Kabaka Mtesa was married in each clan. The Buganda kingdom had approximately 52 clans, each with its own leadership. This provided the basic for the political unit for the whole administration of the kingdom. For example, the sake of political harmony in the kingdom, Kabaka married almost from every important clan, as I have mentioned 52 clans. It means Kabaka had a wife in every clan. Hence, intermarriages were a political weapon and created the possibility of getting Kabaka from any clan. The fifth was agriculture. It means another factor was agricultural factor. Good climate and fertile soil favored crop cultivation in Buganda. Due to the availability of goods, the population of the kingdom began in tinkles and became flooded. It means availability of food in Buganda led to the increase of population. Also, some of them engaged in livestock keeping or pastoralism that gave the rise of Buganda kingdom. And the seventh was trade. It means that the Buganda kingdom developed the trading contacts with the neighbors that were under governance of Kabaka. It means that Buganda kingdom developed the trading contacts with their neighboring states that was under the governance of Kabaka. Because the Buganda were excellent clothes manufacturers, they participated in commercial activities by exchanging clothes for items such as iron tools and with the bunyoro and the cow, kettle, groundnuts and the simsim with the iteso and the langi as well as ankelo. So these were the activities whereby Buganda involved in order to trade with the neighboring societies or states, and that trade was actually at another factor for its rise. So this was the end of our lesson. I would like to give you the exercise which comprises 2 questions which you have to perform. The first question is explain the features of centralized society in pre-colonial Africa, and the second one is assess the factor that led to the rise of Buganda kingdom. So until there, I can tell you that this is the end of our lesson. I would like to thank you for being with me until the end. Thank you. Have a good time.